Hi, Troy. How's it going?
Pretty good. How's it going for you?
Oh, I'm doing good. So
Good, good.
I am just getting organized here. I worked today at the day job, so to get it
Oh,
all organized.
that's a bummer.
It is, but I have plans. My plans include my hope is to actually be making enough on my books here by the end of the year to be able to just do my writing full time.
Just quit. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a wonderful feeling. I've done it 3 times. It's a long story, but anyway.
No, it's all good. I did I this last year I took it as a learning curve. I released a book in March of last year that's like super niched, not to market.
Oh,
Yeah, and I've seen okay sales, and by okay sales, I've made more off of that release than I have off my traditionally released books last year. But instead of 60 sales in 9 months, I want 60 sales in a day minimum. So yeah, I'm just took it as a
that
learning
would be
curve.
nice.
It would
Yeah, it
be.
is. It is a big learning curve.
Uh,
That's the way it is. Yeah.
It is. So we're a little early. I do know that we have a few people that had expressed interest in coming. So we're just kind of waiting for them to show up. They know I usually have the room open a few minutes in advance. So thank you guys for coming out and chatting, because I'm a huge supporter of Plottr. It's one of those go-to tools for me that I just, anybody asks me, I was like, yeah, you need to check
Yeah.
this out.
It's
awesome.
a game changer. It's a game changer for sure. Are you using the Pro or are you still using the desktop?
I'm still using the desktop at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you find it helps you? Like how do you use it?
I'm not a plotter. I'm a pantser. I have to learn how to plot because I have goals this year, but I find that it lets me keep things organized, my character information, my setting information, world building. It allows me to, put notes in where I need to have notes so that I know where I'm going, because I don't follow a roadmap at all. I can't read maps to save my life on a good day. So so I use it to start getting ideas down, and I do storyboarding with it. And then I create story bibles and character bibles through the program, so that I can track which character is supposed to go where.
Right.
And it really helps me to keep them separate, because I have recently discovered, and a very dear friend of mine pointed it out to me, that I had the same character coming back book after book after book, and so I had a lot to work. So it's really been helpful to kind of let me keep characters separate and put notes in. And because when I say I do a character bible, my character bibles are usually about 12 pages long. So
Okay.
yeah, it
Yeah.
gives me room to play.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you put your details into the program as you're writing them, or like before or after?
What I have been doing this last little while is, because I just actually am working, I'm actually working on a new series. I'm actually working on 2 new series and 2 different pen names. I'm actually putting all of the details in before I start writing the book. And I've been doing it with blurbs. I've put in a couple of blurbs and then tweak them and play with them a little bit, and then start with the world building, the characters, and go that route. So it's going to be, it's so far it's working well for me. I have a few questions though.
What genre are you writing in?
I actually write in 3 different genres. I write in paranormal romance, I write in contemporary romance, and then I write in ancient world historical romance. The one series that I just started that I'm working on is Scotland. We're talking around the 12th, 13th century. And I'm still working on my ancient Roman series as well. So
Very cool.
yeah,
Cool.
it keeps me busy.
I like
Yeah, I've
the
got,
ancient world romance as a genre.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
it's sorry, I gotta just move my camera. My cat is gonna knock it down because she likes to walk behind the computer. She hasn't
Right.
figured out yet that she needs to walk in front. She's a bit of a pain in the butt, but sorry.
no, it's okay.
It's like, you know, like, what were the traditions of romance, you know, and at that time?
I don't think that there really was a tradition of romance. Most marriages in ancient Rome were politically direct or financially engineered. So
Right.
Women were chattel. It was basically they were married so that one family could maintain their status, their wealth, by connecting to another equally wealthy family, or gain position in the Senate or the military or something along those lines. Love matches were not really something that was considered. Actually, I don't
Mhm.
think they considered it at all. Not that that there was anything that says that they couldn't have love matches. It was not usually
Right.
the norm. And I think marriage right up until, I'm going to say, probably the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, it kind of followed the same mindset. Most marriages were arranged. Most marriages were, it was a business deal between the father of the bride and the father of the groom, or the groom himself. It wasn't uncommon in Rome for girls to be married at the age of 12 to, 25, 30-year-old men. Actually, it was quite common, which is really weird considering
Right.
that children weren't actually considered to be children until they were about 7, because before 7, they were considered to be still attached to the mom. But their society was really, really weird because the children were kept at a distance, and if you had a debt, people would sell their children to pay the debt. So it's a little weird.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
So you like to get back to traditional marriage, which is between 2 men and several goats.
Yes. Yeah.
So whenever anyone says that we got to get back to traditional marriage, I'm like, yeah, between 2 fathers and a bunch of goats. Okay, that's a good idea. The kids don't get any say.
No,
You like
they
them?
really.
No, too bad.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and it's kind of interesting because there was a lot of things that they did that were really weird back in the day when they were planning marriages. It wasn't uncommon for a father to lock his daughter in the bedroom. Like if she decided, no, I don't want to marry this guy, and she refused, it wasn't uncommon for the father to actually lock her in her room and starve her until she agreed to marry the guy. And then, of course, once she did marry him, she became his property. And I think it was only in the 17th, 1800s that actually women, when they left their husbands, were actually given the right to take their children. Up until that time, their children were taken from the mother and the father got them. So they were property of the dad. They weren't property of the mom, which is kind of interesting, because it's for so long we've, in the last, I'd say last 200 years, it's been, if there's a divorce, it's usually the mother gets the kids because she's got the mothering instinct, but that's not the norm.
Right.
Sorry, I'm a history buff, so I like all of these little trivia
That's
things.
okay. Yeah, so am I. A bit of a history buff. I have a friend of mine who writes Scottish romances, actually based on a lot of the true stories around the kings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're actually super interesting. I mean, I like to read her books. I'm not a romance reader, but I'm digging for the history. Forget about the rest of it. I don't care.
I hear you there. Yeah, we've got I'm the same. Ask Carolyn, she'll tell you. I'm a stickler for historical details. Carolyn is one of my yeah, she's one of my closest support people here. So, well, I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I know that you guys both have busy schedules. So if we have people that show up as we go through, that's fantastic. It is being recorded, so I can always post it into the group afterwards. But let's just jump right into it, because I know I have tons of questions, and I'm sure Carolyn has some questions that she may have thought of as we go. So first and foremost, let's introduce yourselves, and then tell us a little bit about Plottr, what inspired you guys to put Plottr together, and tell us a little bit about the program.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having us. My name is Ryan. I'm a co-founder of Plottr. I'm on the marketing side of things. And I've been working with, I joined up with Plottr in 2020, January 2020. So at that point, Plottr had already been in existence for maybe 3 years. My partner, Cameron, came up with the idea originally. He was working on his own YA fiction projects and couldn't figure out how to outline for anything. So he basically decided at one point that he was going to build a program that was visual in nature, that kind of was fitting what he wanted in a program like this, like the kind of tool that he would use to write his own books. So he released that in 2017. And fast forward a few years, I came across it, reached out to him. I've been working in the author industry for a number of years at this point. And we partnered up, and we relaunched it in May of 2020. Yeah, time has been weird the last couple of years. And it's been going really well since then. I'll let Troy introduce himself. We can talk a bit more about what Plottr is.
Yeah, so my name is Troy Lambert. I'm a mystery author, and now, so I came across Plottr in 2017. I was actually at a writers conference, and I was about to leave, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, these people in the dealer's room, they have this really cool software. You got to go see it." So I went and I bought it. Like, I mean, it took me like 2 minutes to figure out this was something I could use. And so I've been using it since it was a baby software. So when people are like in our Facebook group and stuff asking for features, I'd laugh my head off, because I'm like, yeah, you don't even know what this started like, right? But anyway, and so, but when Plottr relaunched, you know, I already done a lot of stuff, and I was already kind of a Plottr ambassador just by nature, because I integrated it right into my writing process, and we can talk about that in a little while. So they asked me to come on and be the education lead and start teaching and doing videos and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing it ever since. And I actually love it. I've always loved helping other writers and stuff like that. And so I love the teaching aspect of it, but I also just love the aspect of seeing how other people use this software in ways I would have never thought of. Like, I'm like, I would never use it that way, but that is really freaking cool, you know? So yeah, so that's the way it's gone for me. So that's me.
Yeah, so just like to answer the question, we probably should have answered first. So what is Plottr? It's a visual outlining software for writers. It helps you, outline your books. It helps you, if you're a pantser, it allows you to track your scenes afterwards. You can create your story Bible, your series. You can create all of your books in your series. And then you can organize all of your characters and places and timelines using filters. And we have a lot of templates that help authors get started, which people really like. Sort of in a nutshell.
Sorry, I have a dog by my side, so I'm trying to kind of keep him from interrupting everything. But as I was saying, I find the templates handy, but I also find them confusing. Again, I'm not a plotter. I usually it usually goes by the seat of my pants. What happens is, it's an organic process. when you guys were designing the templates, which again, they're awesome, even if they are slightly confusing for me. Did you purposely kind of come across the idea of creating each template to represent all the different genres, as opposed to just kind of being more of a uniformed template, if that makes sense?
Well, yeah, there's so many templates in the program. So I think there are at least 25 in the program right now. And some of them are more general, like just by their nature, like the hero's journey. I think it's typically used more by sci-fi fantasy type of authors, but it really applies for any kind of fiction. And then there are certain templates in there, like there's a cozy mystery beat sheet. There's also a few romance beat sheets that are specific to individual genres. And typically those are based off of other people's methods. Um, but yeah, I mean, it really depends on just the nature of the template, I think, to begin with.
Okay. Okay. So are the templates like adjustable or personalizable, I guess would be more apt. So if I'm using a template and I want to make some changes to it, is there a feature that allows me to make that alteration without actually changing the template itself?
So I mean, Troy, you can talk about this more, but what we usually recommend is that you just add like another line above the template, like another plot line above the template or below it, where you would put in your details. Or you could just add a card underneath the template card.
Yeah.
So you can stack your cards, and then that way your card can be right underneath the other one.
Okay.
But I mean, some people would write in the template card itself. I don't know that I'd recommend it though.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't do it that way. I create a separate plot line. I don't write within the scene card, and the reason is if I change my mind about which template I'm going to use, I can adapt it. But in answer to your question of how adaptable are they, so I have my own template I've created called the Sleuth's Journey,
Yep.
and it's just the hero's journey adapted for mysteries.
Okay.
And I'm working on another one that's going to adapt the romance beat sheet for thrillers.
Ooh.
Because it's a great template. It hits all the plot beats that you should hit, even with a thriller. It's just that the way the language is written in it, it's geared towards romance. But if you think about it, if you step back and think about it, you can adapt almost any of those templates to any genre. You just have to substitute some different language.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is that through my interviews with authors that I do on Thursdays with Troy, which are all over YouTube, you can go check those out. Almost inevitably, when every author talks about using a certain template, they say, I use this template and then. And the and then is how they personalize it.
Okay.
And so the beauty of Plottr has been ever since the beginning that you can use it whatever way you want. So even if you start with a structured template, 99% of the time, the writer is going to take that and adapt it to their story or to their style of writing or whatever the case may be. And so it's inevitable that that's the most common comment I get if people reach out to me, even about the Sleuth's Journey, is they say, well, I used your mystery template and then they tell me what else they did to it, which for me, I'm like, hey, that's great. As long as you're using it, I really don't care what you do with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I find is that every writer adapts the templates and Plottr in general to fit their writing style.
Okay.
So that's just the way it works.
So when when you're talking templates, now I know Carolyn she's an amazing author. She writes in multiple genres, but she's also developing a style where she's writing in serials. She's doing serial novels, light novels, that sort of thing. So when one's talking about templates and one's talking about using Plottr to plot out stories, can the program, the software actually work to facilitate that sort of style of writing as opposed to novel writing, which is completely different than serial writing?
So quick answer, sure, absolutely. People have been using it for Kindle Vella stories or whatever the case may be. The primary difference in those stories, even if you're creating a longer serial, is that your hook from one chapter or one episode to the other just needs to be a really strong hook, because that's how you keep people to read through with Vella, which for some writers, that isn't a bad place for them to start anyway, because they need to develop better hooks. So, that's just my personal opinion. It's not a bad exercise anyway to write a serial, because your chapters need to end with the hook that gets the reader to go, oh, one more chapter. And the next thing they know, it's 1 a.m. and they're like, oh, I finished your book. Right. And that's really what we're all kind of looking for. So serials, to get people reading, especially if you're releasing one episode a week or something like that, people want to come back, you're just developing stronger hooks. And so there's actually a number of ways that you can use Plottr to do that. I would use attributes and scenes, and I would just literally be sure that every scene has a super strong hook at the end of it. And then the way I use scene cards is like writing prompts.
Yeah.
Of what I'm going to write that day. And so you could do the same thing with serials, and you could make that writing prompt as detailed or as not detailed as you want to make it. Doesn't matter.
Okay. So now, and this is completely me, because like I said, I am not a plotter, I am a pantser. But as I work through the program, and I'm trying to flesh out, the Highland Bride series that I'm working on right now, which is at this point, I'm hoping for I'm planning on 5 books, possibly 6 or 7, depending on a couple of factors. How can we use that program to facilitate a series? Now, I know when I was in, I was working on this yesterday, actually, and one of the things that I had noticed was I started book 1, I put it on the information on the characters, selected main character, secondary characters, etc. in book 1. I went to go to book 2 and to put in the new characters that are, of course, the main characters for book 2, etc., etc. And it's really the main characters from book 1 carried over into book 2. Is there a way to work around that so each book stands on its own, so that I can, if I'm working on, say I'm working on book 3 and there's a minor detail, there's a scene where, I've got a character that's in book 1, but they're not the main character anymore. Is there a way to kind of work around that, so that it flows better? Because if the main character in book 1 is not the main character in book 3, it makes it really hard to kind of shift them back and forth. Because if you do shift them, like say I go into chapter 3 and I set main character for book 3, the main character, it changes the main character in book 1 again. Is there a way around that?
Yes, there is. Do you want me to share my screen really quick?
I was just going to suggest that, Troy.
If you would not mind, I would greatly appreciate that, because that's
okay. You'll have to enable me to.
You should be able.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yep. Now I can. Okay. So I'm going to share this screen really quick. Okay. So first of all, let me explain what this is. This is a demo project I made that I'm actually going to write eventually. And what it is, it's a series about serial killers who meet and fall in love.
Okay.
And so at the beginning of this, you can see in this project, I put all kinds of different things, because the name of the first book is Meet Cute, MEAT cute. Okay. Ha ha ha. All that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Serial killers meet and fall in love.
Yep.
Okay. And so now I've added all these other books. Now, what I did at the beginning here was I tested different templates and then decided on the one that I wanted. So I decided I was using Romancing the Beat. And so I went through and developed the thing. So you can see this is the template that's down here, phase 1 setup. And this is my scene here that I have. Okay. And I have inside of this, you can tag characters, places, and then you can create your own tags, right? But within the characters, what you can do is you can tag them by book. So Charlie Lecter, who's one of our main characters in the first book in Meet Cute, I can tag him right here with the book that he's in. Well, if I click on this, you'll see that all the books come up.
Yeah.
Okay. Then when I want to only look at what's in that book, because that's the one I'm working on, I can come over here and filter by that book. And only the characters that are in that book are going to show up. Okay. So that's the way to do that. Now, if you're creating new characters, obviously when you create a new character, they don't have a tag yet. Okay. Right? Because you haven't tagged them yet. Yep. So if I'm working on the next book in a series in one of my files, and what I did was I went through and I created a bunch of new characters like this, and then I went up and I tagged them in the book that I'm working on. And then I can still, I'm just leaving them as new character until I fill in their name.
Yeah.
And now I go up here with the filter feature, and I know I'm kind of like showing you an advanced feature like really fast, but hopefully people have used Plottr before. Now I've got all 3 new characters here. I can fill those in, and I know that this is only for the book that I'm working on.
Okay. Okay. No, that's perfect. That makes a lot of sense. So, so I can put all of my characters in, you know, when I start my series, I can create all of my characters, or at least place markers for those characters, and then just use the book title itself as the tag for that character and then filter it out.
Right.
Okay.
And that comes up automatically. If you have a book here that I've created in this project file, which you can see, I've got a few names outlined for this particular series.
Yeah.
Publishers Killing House and Killing Color. If anybody wants to write with me in this, you're welcome to do so. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, but so it doesn't matter which one of these that I click in, the characters are still going to be there, right?
Okay.
But I have them filtered. But up in this filter area, you'll see that automatically I have books and I have all those names. So I didn't have to create tags for these. These are already created.
Okay.
And then I have categories of characters as well. So when I'm creating a character, let's say for whatever reason, this is one of my main characters, and I can create my own categories if I want, and I can name them whatever I feel like.
Yep.
Right. And I can do the same thing. I can filter only by main characters. So, and I can add a couple conditions. So I can say, okay, I only want to see main characters. Boom, there's main characters. Okay. And that's it. So, and obviously gives you this little warning to let you know, hey, you didn't just delete everything, you know, that type of thing. So, and then you can create your own tags. In this particular one, I haven't created a lot of tags. I've just created a few for POV, but that's now if I was in the middle of actually writing this series instead of just I just planned this, and this will be probably sometime in 2023 or something like that, but with my current writing schedule. But
Troy, do you want to go back to characters for a second? I just want to show one of them there.
You betcha.
Another way you can do this is, so for in this case, so you know, Charlie Lecter is the main character.
Yeah.
But like you said, you know, maybe Charlie Lecter is the main character in this book, but not in the next book.
Yeah.
So what you can do instead of using categories in that case is if you go to click on attributes, Troy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we can add like something like main role, or main, like, you know, main character.
Yeah.
And then you can, so you then add that, Troy.
Yep.
So then if you go to the character, to the attributes, you could then just put in the book that is.
Oh yeah, that's right. Meet cute, like that. And you can filter by doi. And then you can filter by
the main attribute there. Or is that to the right?
Main character, meet cute. Right. Yeah, so you've got all these. When you have this, you can scroll across too, and then that's the only one that I've tagged with main character, meet cute.
Okay.
So you could tag them by individual book that way. So yeah, there's a couple ways you can do that.
Or you could do it the opposite way, where like the book is meet cute, and then you want to put the role that person has in that book. Okay. So you could say, you know, meet cute, and then in the value you could put main.
Right.
If that made more sense.
Yeah, because you can kind of, these attributes, you can add anything you want. So we could add
role, like book 3 role.
Cute, like this.
Yeah.
And then I could then in this character, under meet cute, under the attributes, then I could put main character. So that lets you filter that way too.
Okay.
You can do this however you want. whatever values you enter into the character, you can filter by. So you can, there's an infinite number of combinations and ways. It's kind of like we were talking about that you can use Plottr any way you want. So there's an infinite number of ways that you can do this same thing to separate out your characters by book. You can do it
Okay.
any way you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would one plot out the different points of views and storylines in Plottr within, say, one book, for example? So you've got one book, of course, you've got multiple points of view. So you've got the hero and the hero, the antagonist, the villain, all of those. So how would one separate that and plot out those different points of views and storylines for each one of those characters? Because they obviously have different character lines, right?
So down here on your plot lines, basically, what a lot of people will do if they have different points of view is they'll just create a character plot line. One for Charlie, one for Clarice, and then maybe one for whoever else you have a point of view in the book.
Okay.
And then you can put their scenes on that plot line. That's one way you can do it. The other way is the way that I showed tags here, where you can have different points of view in the tags. And then when you put that in the timeline, so let's say this one, I have tagged Clarice because she's the one that it's her point of view. Okay. And then in the next one, I have filtered, this is Charlie, right? Well, now in the timeline, I can filter as well, and I can filter it by character. So I can say, I only want to see the scenes that Charlie is involved in, or that is Charlie's point of view. And so you can do it that way. Or the other way that you can do it, instead of just tagging the characters, is you can add a tag here and you can say, oh, this is Clarice's point of view. And then you can filter by that as well.
So
you can filter by what scene, and the tags again are like everything else. You can make pages of tags with anything that you want to use to organize your story. Anything. So you can just, so it's it's one of those things that there's features, but they're all really flexible.
Okay, that makes sense. So now all of these, now you've got I think 10 or 12 books there. Are they all in one are they all in one file, or does each one have its own separate file?
So this is all in one file. It's the project file, right? And the project file can contain as many books as you would like, but then each individual one has their own timeline. Okay. So this one, I just tried on a different template and said, okay, maybe I'm going to want to do that template. So I haven't plotted this book out yet because, all of these for me are just something I might, do at some time. Okay. But I have, the romancing the beat plot line in this particular one, then the main plot underneath. Okay. And eventually, again, you could put your character plots down here if you want. Whatever you want. You can put a subplot. Okay. So you can when I do mysteries, I do this. Yeah. Okay. So you could literally, you can actually also, included with the multiple points of view, you could also add in the multiple side plots and side stories going on within one story. So how would you, if you did that, how would you keep it separate and still make, how would you do that so that it's cohesive and it makes sense, rather than all, just a jumbled mess of notes? Okay, so let's do this. So what I would do is, let's say this is where I introduce H1. Yeah. Okay, so I would put that scene H1 right there. Okay. The one for character 2, scene H2. So I can see that they're separate characters, but they still go in order. Okay. Essentially. Okay. That's one way to do it. What you can do is have a main plot, which has all your information about the plot. Yeah. And then these scenes will just give you clues about that character's role in this particular scene. Because there might be scenes that have both of them in them. And so you have scene 3 and scene 3, right? And these are both from the different characters. So they're both in this scene. So this is your main scene. But to keep things straight for yourself, you could have what this character is in the scene. And let's say I want to use an attribute template of my goal, motivation, conflict. I won't go really deep into this, but I do this with a lot of my different scenes. I go, what's the goal of the scene, the goal of the character in the scene? What's their motivation? What's the conflict? And what's the verb or emotion that I want the reader to feel when they're done with that scene, right? And
Okay.
even as I'm writing, I come back in and revise these, right? So in this scene, you could have one of those for character number 1, another one for character number 2, and then the main scene, which just shows your overall scene. And that's where you have your notes about your overall scene. So you can do this. That's one of the ways you can do it. You know, that's and let's say in this one that I had my subplot as the detective that's chasing them. And so in this one, I also have a clue for the detective. And then if I write that down, of course, that's really lovely there. Typing live, I put all kinds of letters in there. But I put a clue there for the detective, and that tells me at the end of the book, okay, I have to resolve that clue by the end of the book.
Okay.
So it just gives me hints as far as what I need to do.
Okay.
So that's kind of my style of doing things. You certainly aren't tied to that, but it's just one way that works.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just looking here at Carolyn's comments now. She said she's currently working on a complicated sci-fi serial. And it is complicated. It's an amazing story. But Plottr is keeping her from making major continuity issues, which is a huge thing. And that's one of the things I love about Plottr is that it helps to avoid those continuity issues. So now, so here's a question that I have for you. And I've had this happen, and I know Carolyn's had this happen. Say I've done some work, I've put this together, you know, I've saved the file, etc., and I go back in to find the file and I cannot find it at all. It has simply vanished into cyberspace, into the great chasm of blackness that is otherwise known as the end all of be all for places of missing files. Is there a way to relocate that file, or is there a way to find that file if you do not have Plottr Pro?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. I can show the.
Troy can show you where the backups are, but typically, I don't know what the situation was, and I think every situation like that is slightly different. But you can always, if you have the regular version, the offline version of Plottr, you can search your computer for PLTR files.
Okay.
And you should find them somewhere in your file storage system.
Okay.
The other place is Troy can show you in the project section of Plottr itself, and then there are backups too.
Yeah, well, okay, let me go to the project section. First of all, usually even on the regular Plottr, you'll see your recent projects.
Yeah.
Now, even after you update, like I just updated mine, just saw the little blue thing that told me I was on the latest version. I just updated, but you can still see my recent projects, right?
Yeah.
And in my case, you're going to see a lot of them because, you know, I edit templates, I do all kinds of stuff. So I've just got all kinds of stuff everywhere. In fact, I crashed Plottr Pro when I first uploaded all of mine, and the developer was like, "Where'd all these files come from?" And I'm like, "Never mind." Anyway, so that's not normal. But even if you lose a backup, you can go to your account and then backups, and the backups are by date, and it will tell you. Like I just did this the other day because I couldn't find one of mine for some reason. I don't know. It was a really strange thing, and so I went back into my backups and found the backup file. But it'll also tell you if you go into your settings and you go to backups,
Yeah.
it will tell you the folder where they're stored, and you can actually choose a different folder if you want, if you don't want them to save to that particular folder.
Yeah.
But it'll tell you where your backups are stored, and then you can go and find that on your computer.
Okay. That
so
makes
if
sense.
I mean, if you're not familiar, if you're kind of not super tech savvy. It's easier than you think. Usually, I don't know how to do it on Windows. I know how to do it on Mac, but because I haven't been on Windows for years. But anyway, you can find where the file location is, and you can go to that file location. You can pull the backup file out of there.
Okay.
So it's actually really easy. It's a really simple system.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So when you're looking at working on there, what should one avoid when one is working and saving their projects on Plottr? Is there anything that we should avoid that could potentially cause an issue in the like down the road in some fashion?
If you don't have Plottr Pro and you're sharing things like through a Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive, whatever your poison, pick your poison.
Yeah.
Don't be working on the file on the same file as someone else at the same time. You can do that through the collaboration if you're using Plottr Pro, but if you do it with regular Plottr, you'll have version issues depending upon how often your cloud service saves.
Yeah.
And how often the autosave works for you and how that works, but you'll probably have versioning issues. So you don't want to do that. If you're going to collaborate with somebody, first of all, my advice is to use Plottr Pro. If you guys don't have Plottr Pro, that's actually fine. Just be sure you're not working on the file at the exact same time. So if you're going to work on the file as the same file as your co-author, your editor, or whatever, call them up and say, "Hey, man, close the file on your computer and don't use it, please."
Okay.
Until you're done.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I have just a regular Plottr. I haven't gotten Pro yet. It's on my wish list. So for example, say I decide I don't want to work in my office anymore. I want to go out and sit and work on my laptop, in the living room with the hubby. If I export the file and send it to the Google Drive and move to the living room, then it's a good idea to close Plottr on my office computer so that I'm not creating that issue. Is that what, does that make sense, or is that kind of that fall within that line of what you were saying about, don't be on using the same because of the version issues?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Troy, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to say the same thing. I think so. What I tell people when they ask me technical questions like that is that I write words and not code. So I actually have no idea. But I think it would be the same thing if you had the same version of your file open on two different ones of your computer because of the way the autosave works. I think it would create versioning issues. I don't know. I haven't tried that. I'm probably not going to, but we could probably
I would
get you an
recommend
answer.
closing the file first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Now, you guys just released Plottr Pro, and like I said, it's on my wish list. Can you tell us a little bit about the upgrade? If you already have Plottr, what's the price of the new upgrade for that? If you haven't got Plottr yet, can you buy the old version and then or the new version separated in that sense?
Yeah. So the main difference between Plottr and Plottr Pro is the fact that Pro is cloud-based.
Okay.
So it doesn't have any new features from a story building perspective. But what it does do is it allows you to use Plottr on the web. So it comes with a web application. It comes with built-in cloud storage and the ability to sync your devices. So any content you put on one device will automatically sync to any other device that has Pro installed on it.
Okay.
So those are some of the main benefits. There's also a collaboration feature. So you can collaborate in real time with other Pro users.
Yeah.
So you can work on the same file at the same time, as Troy was talking about. And then there are a couple of things that people really like that aren't really built into the program so much as they're built into the browser. So with the web version, you can have different tabs open at the same time of the same project, which makes it so you can either like put those windows side by side, for example, or you could, just flip through the tabs. So people really like that. And then there's also like a better zoom control with the web version, just because with the browser, you can use your keyboard shortcuts to zoom in more or less.
Okay.
So it's a bit more, it's more like the control is more refined. So there's kind of some weird side benefits of the pro version that weren't intentional necessarily, but people really enjoy them. And then in terms of the pricing, so it does depend on who the customer is. So I'm not going to give out any pricing right now. But if you join the email list or you sign up for the free trial, you will get an email when it launches again.
Okay.
As of this recording, it just sold out for the second time this week. So it's not currently available, but we're going to be releasing it again probably around the end of February.
Okay. That's good to know. That gives me a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So is it going to be going to be linked or usable with programs like such as Atticus?
Yes, that is the plan. We're not sure on a timeline exactly, but we are working with Dave's team over at Atticus to create some kind of integration.
Okay.
I really don't. We've talked to him about it a few times, but the details are still kind of murky. So I don't want to overstate what it is yet, but there will be some kind of integration.
Okay. No, that makes sense, because for some of us that love Atticus, it would make it so much easier. So that's definitely an upgrade that is well worth the wait, I think.
Yeah. It's
So
also not fully in our control. So
yeah. Yeah, well, especially when you're working with someone else, it does make it a little bit harder. So now Carolyn and I have done this before. We have worked on anthologies, those sorts of things. So with the setup with Plottr and Plottr Pro, if we are working on a collaboration, we're doing an anthology, a themed anthology. If I have regular Plottr and she has Plottr Pro, and I send her a Plottr file, will she be able to access it?
Yeah. I mean, she can upload it to. Yeah, I mean, she could just upload it into her Plottr Pro, and she'd be good to go.
Okay. So they will communicate, because I know with some programs, if you've got an older version, it doesn't necessarily communicate with the updated version and vice versa. So how would that work if she has the Plottr Pro and she's, she does some work on the project and then she sends me back the file? Would I be able to open it?
Yeah. So currently, when you have Pro, you can download the file from the web app. We're working to make that functionality a bit more robust. You can do it from more places. But you can, if you log into the web app, which is app.plottr.com,
Okay.
and you go to the project tab, there's a download button. So anyone who has Pro can do that, and then they could just send you the file. Like I said, they're not really, it's not like one is a newer version than the other. They're technically the same version.
Okay.
One just has cloud-based features and one is fully offline.
Okay. Now I know that when I got mine, I had the 3 licenses. And one of the things that I had noticed was I've used 2 of the licenses because and the third one I don't have a third computer to put it on. And so I'm wondering, are you guys, is there something in the especially with Plottr Pro, is it going to be where you're not going to have multiple licenses to actually have the program on multiple devices?
Yeah, that is the case with Plottr Pro.
Okay.
So with Pro, there's no license, there's no device, or there's no license key, and there's no device limitation. So
Okay.
you can install it on any devices that you have.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know, because I know I've had a couple of people that I've talked to that have had issues with their licensing keys. Yes, and I think that's a great idea. Web-based, cloud-based stuff is so worth it, I think, because it just makes it easy. So if I'm at work, at the day job, and I'm sitting on my lunch hour and I want to work on my book, I should be able to do it. I'm actually excited about that. So is there anything in regards to Plottr, is there anything, if you have someone who knows next to nothing about the program, or knows nothing about the program, is there anything that you would say, what would you tell someone who's just getting started and looking at getting the program?
I think the first piece of advice I would give you is just not to be fooled by the name. It's called Plottr, but a lot of pantsers use it. So don't get thrown off by that. That's the first thing where some people are like, but it's called Plottr. How can I possibly use this? It's like, well, you can. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing would be, if you're just getting started, I would recommend the templates. I think Troy would also recommend, perusing the templates, maybe picking one that the name pops out to you, and just read through the descriptions and to understand better like what the structure of a story might look like, and how that compares to the ideas that you have for what you want to write. And maybe you'll find a template that works particularly well with the way you have your story constructed in mind.
Okay.
There are also a lot of really good YouTube videos that Troy has done, where you can learn more about the program and some very specific use cases. And then we also have video tutorials for the basic stuff and documentation. So, and we also have group training sessions that are live where you can answer questions sort of like this.
Okay.
So those are all really good resources to get started.
And now I know you guys have a Facebook group as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that group?
Yeah, it's your fairly standard Facebook group. I should have mentioned that. They're over, at this point, somehow there are over 5,000 people in there. Troy usually does a video every week on some topic. We have some polls in there. We have, you can ask questions. You can share feedback, share how you're using the program. And it's a, friendly, happy little community.
Awesome.
And so, yeah. I think it's facebook.com/group/Plottr.
Okay. I will find the link for those who did not make it tonight, and I don't know where they have gone, but I will find the link and make sure that it is in the box so that if anyone is interested, they can check it out for themselves. Yeah, Carolyn is a hybrid. She's a plantser, and yeah. I love the organizational aspect of it because I am disorganized. I have controlled chaos. That's my writing style, is controlled chaos. Now, I know that there's been instances where I've made a comment in or asked a question in the Facebook group, and I've gone back after and my comments vanished. So is there anything when it comes to the Facebook group in regards to asking questions or leaving comments that one should possibly avoid to avoid having their comment deleted?
Asking questions about pricing in the Facebook group usually gets deleted.
Yep.
Some tech questions
Some
too,
kinds of technical questions, yeah.
Especially if it's like really detailed about your particular project. That's more something to take to support rather than, or every now and then I'll see comments, and I usually don't go one way or the other with them, but I'll see posts that people say, well, I already contacted support, but maybe somebody in here has an answer for you. And I'm like, no, you need to talk to support because that's why you emailed them. I'm not going to try to answer your question when you already emailed support. And it's not that we don't want to answer questions that, the bigger groups, I have another author group too that has like 5,000 people in it. And when you get to be that many people in a group, there's just like, part of it is you get repeated questions. Part of it is that you get questions that are just, it's not a benefit to the entire group. So that's the only things that I found. I mean, and I'm not the big moderator. I just moderate things that I know. I'm like, oh, that's something I can answer or whatever, and I answer a lot of questions in the group. But there is kind of a certain I don't know. There's a certain amount of like, it needs to benefit everybody. Otherwise, I generally don't comment because I'm like, it's this is a group for everybody. This is the group. If you have individual questions, there's tons of ways to ask people individual questions.
So it's kind of keep it more of a generalized as opposed to a certain specific point of question, I guess would be the best advice. Sorry, we have a guest. Excellent. Oh, Carolyn's just checked her email. Yeah, I'm terrible at checking emails too. I should check my email too. So if there is an issue, that you cannot troubleshoot on your own, there isn't an answer in the Facebook group that you kind of go through. Of course, contacting support is incredibly important. So how does one go about doing that? Is there a form on the website? Is there, do you email? How would one go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can reach out to us, plottr.com/support. That's usually the best way to handle anything that's of a personal or very specific, complicated technical nature.
Okay.
General how-to questions, that kind of thing, are great for the Facebook group. But yeah, like Troy said, very specific, personalized questions can don't always get an answer in there.
Yeah. I enjoy the group. I work during the day, so it's kind of hard for me to catch Troy's classes a lot. I do try and go back and see them because it's, like I said, Plottr has been invaluable to me. And I kind of fell out with using it, but I think that was just simply because it was just, I don't even know why, because I love the program. Do you have anything? I mean, of course, you've got Plottr Pro, you've got the possibly the connection with Atticus coming up. Is there anything else that you guys are working on that you can talk about that's exciting for those of us who are avid users of the program?
Yeah, trying to think what I want to share.
There is one thing I get excited about that I'll share while Ryan thinks about it, and that is that I'm a big Scrivener user, right? And our Scrivener export is good, but it's getting better. And so Cameron actually, he messages me often with questions about how I use Scrivener and how I want it to work. And so our integration with Scrivener and our export to Scrivener will get more robust. And I know they're actively working on that now. I don't have a timeline because, again, me write words, not code. So I don't know what they're doing, except that I know that they ask me questions about it all the time. So I'm really excited about that because the Scrivener export for me is it's an absolute lifesaver. It's a big part of my writing process.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we were working on one feature that would let you duplicate your scenes, for example.
Ooh.
So you can duplicate scenes. That's a big one that we're working on. There's a feature we're working on to help you move your scenes to another book. So if you have a scene in book 1 and you want to put it in book 2, you'll be able to like transfer it to the other book.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
We've been wanting to do that for a while. And then the last thing that we're hoping to get to for next month is actually, and I'm not entirely sure this can get done on time, but we're trying to do an import from Scrivener.
Okay.
So you can take your Scrivener file and import it into Plottr, and it'll build out the timeline for you.
Oh, I like that. That's kind of cool. I'm not a Scrivener user. I tried it a couple of times a few years ago, and it was too confusing for my poor brain. So, but I do like the way that we can use Plottr. So, I mean, Scrivener is a great program. Like I said, it was just a little too complex for my poor brain because my poor brain doesn't function like that. But I had a question, but it just kind of went poof.
Okay, and I'm gonna have to jump off really quick. I actually have a critique group at 7 o'clock. And normally I would make them wait for me, but they use my Zoom account. So
Thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate you taking the time out to join us this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you
Yep.
so very much.
It was great being here. Appreciate you guys, and have a good evening.
You
And
as
you can
well.
always reach out to me in the Facebook group if you have questions that you think I might be able to answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
All
Troy.
right. Thanks. We'll see you.
All right. Carolyn, did you have any questions for Ryan?
I do. Please forgive me, Ryan. I'm kind of in dumb phase right now. So I'm trying to do a lot of different complicated stories. I'm a speculative fiction genre bender. I like to write them all, baby, except for horror and thriller, not my jam.
Sounds fun.
I so grateful for tonight, like especially if you consider grouping. I think I have to explain it to ask the question. I am also working on a lit RPG where it's really wrong. She's been summoned by a necromancer, but she's from Earth. She's not from this gaming world. And it turns out that the interface is accidentally phased into an actual netherworld, where you think they're NPCs and beasts. You're actually fighting on another planet, killing off their creatures. So she ends up getting goddess status, and the necromancer gives her his powers, and then a dead, I think it was a wizard, no, was it a warlock? She gets arcane magic, and these three together screw each other up big time. So all her spells and enchantments, all of her defense and offense spells are gonna blow up in her face in one comical way or another, and like maybe almost kill the D-bag keeps trying to kill her that's in her group. It would be epic. And I don't know if you have this in store, if there was a way to connect and have organized, like if I had my 3 different goddess spell list, necromancer spell list, the arcane magic, and then how they interact and screw each other up list. So if I had them all side by side in
Can you do
Plottr,
that in notes? Could you do that in notes?
you can do those side by side in notes.
Side by side. So you want the items to be like in a grid?
Oh, that would probably even be better. I don't know. I don't know what I want. I'm just all complicated in my head. It's all a web, intertangled and stuff.
I
Are
like
you
the
trying
idea
to-
of the I like the idea of the grid, because I think that would make then that way you have that split screen type comparison ability. Is that what you're kind of thinking?
What are you, yeah, are you trying to like see the spells side by side? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, to see all 3 lists of spells, and then to create my 4th list where it's all on one screen, all, you know, in one section together. Like I could put spells,
So
and
you want to
there
be
are
able to see all of the
4
spells.
spell.
Okay.
Yes. Does that make sense? I'm probably not making any
I
sense.
think so. So it's sort of like you have 4 notes and you want to see the content of each note in the same screen.
Yes, yes, like that.
Yeah, I mean, so that could be a grid. I mean, you could also just put all of the content in one note, I guess. So, I mean, I could share my screen here.
Please, I'm a very visual person.
Might not be exactly what you want to do, but it could work.
Anything to help, because I'm gonna admit right now, I don't know how to organize in Scrivener.
Mhm.
So I tend to use Affinity Photo, and I put things in Affinity Photo, and I make the image wide, and then I have everything all laid out. And it gets confusing because I have to keep going into Affinity to correct or to add on or whatever. And it would just be easier if I could see everything in one place to correct. Oh, well, here when she casts this spell, this is how the arcane magic's going to totally screw with her.
Mhm. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So let's say you have spell list. So would it be, are there four, you said there are like 3 or 4 kinds of spells? Is that what you said?
How do I do this?
Yeah, that would, yeah, I think, yeah, because there was the goddess spells, the arcane spells, the wizard or warlock spells.
So let's say you had three spell created attributes for these 3 spell types. You make them paragraph fields. So we then have spells A, B, and C, and then the spell list. So you could then like create a bullet list, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. So we can then save that. Then you would see them all here, organized into their spells type. Would that help, or is that not what you're looking for?
She's looking, she's thinking.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was muted. I'm like, that's perfect. That's all under one category in notes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the category here doesn't matter. I could call it main.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
You
The
added a
important
note.
thing here is setting up the attributes.
Attributes. And I saw you when the other gentleman was in his, and you're like, oh no, go to attributes. And you start, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to learn attributes because that would so help. I think that would help with my different storylines going on at the same time. I'm trying to do I got this Save the Cat rights for TV to learn how to do serials better.
Mhm.
I'm pretty kicked butt at web novels, but I suck at the serialized format because it is a bit different than just the hook at the end. It's where you have one big story arc, but you have different stories going on inside them, like with Shadow and Bone. Like how you have the characters that are together and split off, and you get to see characters in different parts of the world, but it all comes together and they even meet up in points throughout the story. That's my end goal for serials, is to write specific serial format in that way. So I think doing it this way and connecting the storylines would even help if I use the attributes, just like you just showed us.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
so
Thank you.
if I were you, I would probably do something like this: POV 1, like have a plot line for POV 1, POV 2. Right. You could call these episodes instead.
The problem is that I end up having so many of those lines that
Mhm.
they're just, and then like I might be doing it wrong. I started like with episode 1. I have for example, Tangled Fates, I have Sabin's point of view, and then I have on the other line Kali's point of view, and then I
Mhm.
have just a little blip of those scenes that happen, and then I go for episode 2. But that's not a true serial either.
but wouldn't it, what if you did, what if you staggered your points? So you've got your main plot, like your scene plot, main plot, up under episode 1, then you've got your 2 different points of view. What if you staggered them? So plot point of view 1 would be, the first box, and then point of view 2 is the next box. It's just a little bit over, like just not directly in line, but kind of like little steps down, so that
I do. And then I have like in one project, I have 5 lines. So I have to keep scrolling up and down. I have to keep going left and right to make sure everybody gets the right amount of time and screen time.
I mean, another way you can do this is to set up the cards like this. So POV, maybe like if you want to do it in order, like in narrative order here, like POV 2.
Yeah.
And to do it instead, you could color them. So maybe like POV 1 is blue. Just type in
Right.
blue.
I have that.
Yeah, and then POV.
Like her magic's red. So I used red, and then I used purple for him,
Right,
even though he has 2 gods.
right. You could go back. So I mean, that could be a way to do it also. But
You know, that might be better. And then just have the storyline 1, 2, and 3.
Mhm.
And then as I bring in more. Really appreciate you taking the time to show me this. It's super helpful.
It really is. It really is, because now it's giving me some ideas on how to do this, how to map out this mistaken groom.
yeah, glad to help.
So when you're putting in, so when we're, because this is something that I've definitely have noticed with the characters, because I do, like I say, I do character Bibles, and they're extensive. I started writing Mistaken Groom, but I've while before I actually started finished all of my character interviews. But can you, with your attributes, can you set, so for example, say I have two characters that have similar names, right? Can I set with the attributes, can I set, like color coordinate or something like that, where, so if character, we're just going to go with Anne with an E and Anne without an Anna. So can I actually set those so that there's a way to differentiate them as I'm mentioning it into my project and into the timeline by using the attributes?
What would you be trying to, let's say this one is Anna, and then this whoops, POV one is Anna, and POV two is Anne. So what would you be trying to do?
So for example, say I have a scene where, say Anna is she's the mistress of the house, for example. And I'm thinking medieval Scotland here. And she has her servant whose name is Anne, who is supposed to be helping her get dressed. And there's a conversation that they have to have, because there's something that is, that relationship is important to the plot. So for example, maybe Anna is, she's instructing her lady's maid to do something, and Anne is saying, well, hey, no, you can't do this because I heard that, the Baron that's over, to the left of us, or to the right of us, or to the east of us, I should say, is going to attack. So how is there a way to set it up so that I can differentiate, so that to make it a little bit easier, because sometimes there are names that are very similar, or they're the same name, but it's a different character, if that makes any sense.
I mean, so you're trying to identify which scene is focused on which character?
Yes.
So can you use the colors to do that?
That was what I was asking.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
colors.
I mean, yeah. So you could use colors. I mean, you could add a tag, like you could create a tag, like, I don't know what you would want to call it, but like, you could call it POV one, or, or like focus equals, Anna,
Okay.
maybe color that. Or maybe in that case, try a different color. But so then you could put the tag focus equals Anna.
Yeah.
And so you would see that tag in the card there when you hover on it, and you can also filter by it. But
Okay.
so I mean, those are a couple of ways you could do that, but yeah, I mean, it's really up to you.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense, because that's, right at this point my character list is getting rather long. So no, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. Yeah, that makes it easier for me. Color
Great.
coordinating is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you can always, yeah, no, I think that'd be the best way to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's been great chatting with you guys.
It has been awesome. Thank you so very much for taking the time out to come and join us this evening. It's been very informative, and now I can't wait to dive back into Plottr.
Awesome.
Do a little bit more work here. So for those who are watching this after the fact, they're watching the recording, how does one go about purchasing? Like, what's the website to purchase Plottr? And is Plottr available? I know you said that Plottr Pro has already sold out, which is great, and it's going to be coming back up here towards the end of February. But is Plottr available now? And if so, how does one find it and purchase it?
Yeah, so Plottr is always available. The standard offline version is always available 24/7, doesn't take off. But you can go to the website plottr.com, plottr.com, and you can learn more about it, and you can sign up for a free trial if you're interested.
Awesome. Excellent. And for all of those who are watching after the fact, you really need to get it. You really, really need to get it. Thank you, Ryan, so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I am so glad that you were able to join us this evening. And if we have any further questions, how can we get hold of you?
I'd recommend either joining the Facebook group or contacting us via support, which is plottr.com/support.
Okay. Perfect. That is what we will do. Thank you again. Thank you everyone who came. Thank you, Carolyn, for coming. Thank you, Troy, even though I know he's gone. I look forward to learning even more with Plottr and getting some more happening here. I've got lots of books to plot out now.
I believe in you.
Thanks. So I will have all the links for everyone in the description box, as well as the post in our Facebook group. And if anyone has any questions, again, check out Plottr, their website. Check the links, and we will talk to everyone soon. Thank you so very much, Ryan, for coming, and have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.